next episode of Point Black. I'm Adolphus Pruitt.
And I'm the Reverend Darrell Gray.
Oh my God!
I like this next. Did you say the next edition or a new edition?
Well, both.
Well, new edition. I guess they got a trademark. We might not be able to use that. Pruitt, last week, man, you lit the airways on fire, talking about billions of dollars being made out at the airport. And I was talking to some people this week, and very few people know about that. Very few people know about the type of revenue that comes through the airport. And people forget that it's owned by the city. And we still have all these potholes and broken down buildings, and I can go on.
Ain't no potholes at the airport.
That was good. Let's hope not.
Now, you may have a hell of a time parking.
That was good.
Hell of a time parking. But they're, because they said, not us, they said that the airport is, economic activity on the annual basis at $27.5 billion.
That's what it be, y'all, billion.
And they said that when they do this new passenger terminal, it's going to go up by $5 billion. And let's be clear. Here's what's even more important. And ladies and gentlemen, we told you we were going to talk about it. They said that when they build a new terminal, the areas for concessions and retail are going to increase by about 60%.
Yay! That means
Are we
gonna make some money? Are we gonna make some money?
That means more than double. So when you go to our airport now and you see the concessions and stuff, more than double the space is going to be available at the new terminal. And ladies and gentlemen, let us remind you that when we talk about concessions, that 100%, 93% of that is owned by one entity.
Wow.
And when we talk about the retail side of it, another 89% of it is owned by another company. So let's be clear. Two companies own more than 99% of all the concessions in the airport. So when you walk through that airport and you buy something to eat, or you buy something out one of those retail stores, you are funding two primary concessions that owns all of that. And then we're going to also get back into this thing about the rental car space and what's going on there. And we have a couple of guests.
But bro, let me ask you a question, real quick.
Go ahead.
So the people who own the two people who own all of the concessions, basically, how long have they
since Black Pepper was founded?
And they have to bid for this.
Yes.
And the bidding process goes through the commission.
And ultimately, in some cases, yes, it goes through the commission.
And the commissioners are appointed by elected officials.
Absolutely right.
We're talking about Black.
The mayor.
The
President Board of Aldermen. And the comptroller has a seat on there. So let's be clear.
Okay.
The leadership of the city has seats or appointees on the commission. Absolutely right.
Okay, I'm
absolutely right. Absolutely right.
I just wanted that to be on the record.
And let's be clear. All the concessions in retail, all the rental cars, all of that is controlled, owned, and the folks that make the money are white. There was one black that was in there making some money.
We talked about
and
him.
They're not there anymore.
And his concession was the shoe.
They were shining shoes.
They were shining shoes.
They was a shoe shine. That was the 100% owned black entity in the concessions. So they're gonna double the space. But even worse, remember we talked about the rental car piece. So we're gonna start off rental car. We're gonna jump to concession just to refresh people.
All right.
And we got two people in the house. We're going to call them our expert witnesses. Expert witnesses. You know what? And folks, what certified them to be expert witnesses? Me and Darrell, we vetted them. So they're expert witnesses.
They're good to go.
They're good to go, Darrell.
They're good to go.
They're good to go.
They actually, I think that they are the best expert witnesses
on this issue.
On this issue.
I heard that.
That we could have found.
I heard that. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves and give you a little bit of background. Let's start with you, former senator.
My name is James Clayborne, and I'm honored to be here. I started a company a few years back called ICS, International Car Solutions, and basically we mission or business model was to process credit cards for merchants. And my son, Justin, bought the company a few years back and took it over, and very proud of the fact that he has expanded his relationship and expanded the growth of the company.
But we're going to get to Justin. Man, tell them who you are. I want to make sure everybody knows, because we said expert witness. We want to make everybody know that this man knows his stuff.
Well, I'm a former state senator in Illinois, served in the Illinois Senate for almost 24 years.
Wow.
The last 10 years that I was in the legislature, I was the majority leader in the legislature. I was also, most people focus on the fact that the last 13 years I sponsored and passed legislation that created greater opportunities for minorities as it relates to state public contracts and state dollars, which did create some transformational opportunities. We stepped it up right after I left, but I continue to work with my colleagues, and we're probably one of the few states that has an equity and inclusion commission that's appointed by the governor. Members are appointed by the governor. The executive director is appointed by the governor, and all procurement contracts must flow through the Equity and Inclusion Commission, and they also monitor those contracts and performance as well.
And what do you do for a living, your other profession?
Oh, and I'm a lawyer.
Hey, what's the name of the law firm?
Clayborne and Wagner.
Oh.
Well, he was doing all right till he got to that one. Also a former state senator from Kansas. So welcome, Senator.
Thank you.
From
Thank
one
you,
senator to another.
Thank you, Senator.
BJ, you didn't know that? You didn't know I served as state senator in Kansas? I represented Wichita, Kansas for 2 years.
Yes, he
2
did.
years.
He knew Dorothy.
Well, actually, when people say that, to me, they say, I only thought that lions and tigers and bears. My response is, oh my. But no, so Senator, well, I mean, it's really an honor. And go ahead.
Justin, we're gonna get.
So, one, I appreciate you all giving us this platform. My name's Justin Clayborne. I am the CEO of International Card Solutions. I actually cut my teeth working on Wall Street, first down in Atlanta with SunTrust Robinson Humphrey, doing investment banking, and then most recently in New York with JP Morgan, covering technology investment banking, specifically the credit card processors. Today, I run an investment fund that invests into minority-owned businesses.
Now, folks, I told you, can we all agree we have some expert witnesses?
Yes. My hand's up.
BJ, do we have expert witnesses? Okay, if BJ said yes, we're good to go.
Yeah, BJ.
So let's hop into it. What I want you guys to do is let's talk about your experience trying to do business as a minority with our airport. Let's just talk about it. Let's tell us about your experience and what's going on, and as you do that, give us a take on some of the conversations you've had on the federal level with what's going on at the airport. Bet?
That works. Is it helpful if we kind of take a step back and talk about the ACDB program?
You can run with it any way you want.
So I appreciate it. The ACDB program within the airport, it stands for Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. And basically what that means is it's a Department of Transportation government program that states that any airport who receives Federal Aviation Administration monies must implement ACDBE participation goals. These goals cover both the concessionaires in terminals, so think of food and beverage, specialty retail, and convenience. It covers parking, as well as it covers rental car companies. International Card Solutions, so when I purchased a business from my father, kind of had the vision of bringing his international card solutions with the ACDB certification to create a win-win outcome for businesses, because one, businesses always want to increase their profitability, and so we can reduce their costs to accept credit and debit card transactions. But then two, it's also being able to leverage this ACDBE certification to allow them to increase their participation goals within the airport. I would say today, and not talking specific to St. Louis Lambert International Airport, we've had some success working within the airport. Today, we are a credit card processor for 12 to 13 airports for their parking operations across the U.S. Some of those would be Pittsburgh, Kalamazoo, Manchester, Boston, a few airports down in Florida, as well as Quad Cities here in Illinois.
How long, excuse me, how long has this program policy, how long has it existed?
So originally it was enacted in 1987, and then it was
reenacted in about 2012.
Okay, in 2012.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more on Point Blank. And again, we're talking about the airport, folks. Daryl's going to make a crash landing in a minute. We'll be right back. And we are back. Aren't we, Daryl? And we're black.
That's why we call it Point Blank, yeah. And as we were saying off air, it's important for people to realize that the program that you're talking about has existed for a while. And so, for us, I'm the resident progressive, so Pruitt, I don't know if Pruitt told you that.
Oh, man.
It's always important that people understand, there's the protest side, the political side, but the policy side. And that's where we've got to make it work.
And federal. It's federal.
And it's federal.
And it's federal.
Yeah. And so the obligation, like you said, and Pruitt was talking about it, the fact that the airport gets federal money, the airport is obligated. And so for me, Pruitt, and I really want to hear from our expert witnesses, our panelists, their experience in it. But I'm going to always harp on the idea of transparency and accountability. And I'm just surprised that with all of this money that comes through the airport, and the fact that at the end of the day, the people who are responsible for oversight, and I'm not talking about the commission, I'm talking about elected officials who put these commissioners in place. 17 people sit on the commission, and they are appointed, as you said, president of the board of aldermen, comptroller. The mayor appoints 6, and there's no residency requirement. So I want to hear about your experience and how you think it's going, and where do we go? What do we need to do? Because I want some of that billion.
Go ahead.
So the experience within St. Louis Lambert International, to be specific, has been very challenging, to say the least. When we've been trying to have conversations with the rental car companies dating back to 2020, and since then we've had one conversation over the phone with them.
Since 2020?
Since 2020. A lot of email exchange back and forth, and responses that show they're just unwilling to have a conversation with a company who provides an essential service to the rental car business model. If you think about when you rent a car today, they ask you for 2 things, right? First, your driver's license. And the second is a valid credit or debit card to accept that payment. And that's exactly what we do, is provide businesses the ability to accept their customers' credit and debit card payments.
Well, James, here's my question to you. You've worked in the legislature a long time, passing bills, doing the right thing to make sure that that equity and inclusion is real. And so legislatively, your record speaks for itself. You've been a part of this experience. You've talked to the folks at the federal level. You've done this. How do you compare this experience with what should be happening?
Basically, it boils down to one issue: is accountability.
Right.
Gotcha.
Monitoring and accountability, and making sure. And I think this is typically in this space of diversity and inclusion, is we put more pressure not on the company, but we put on the prime. We put more pressure on the sub or the person or the company that's trying to do business with the prime. It's almost like they have to jump over was a speeding Superman,
Right.
faster than a speed bullet,
Right.
jump higher than the tallest building. When they come to the table, and particularly in our instance, we have a history. We're in a unique position to be able to satisfy every goal that is set, even as a backstop, because we're involved in every transaction. So the real issue and what we've experienced is that this is something new, and I think we've caught these companies off guard.
Okay.
And I think at this point they're not willing to make adjustments.
Yeah, but the feds, let's talk about, I really want to understand this experience about, and we talked about it last week, folks, about their failure to monitor and compliance
Right.
and what all that is about. Let's talk about that a minute.
Well, one of the issues, the biggest issue is a good faith effort, right?
Right.
And how do you define a good faith effort? Well, what we've seen lately, currently with the proposal that was passed, the recommendation that was passed last week, all of them are short. Well, if there's a good faith effort that's truly made, then how do you fall short when you have several companies that have the ability to fill in that gap as a backstop? The fact that you have not talked to ICS and determine our capabilities, our history, who our current clients are, our capacity, and we're certified by the airport, by the state of Missouri DOT, then how can you say that they've truly made a good faith effort when we have not been at the table and no serious discussions have been made regarding our history and our capability?
And Daryl, I want Daryl to hone in on this. 'Cause Daryl, here, let's be clear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm required to have so much minority participation on the project, or ABCD
Right.
participation. And I know there's a company that I can hire and do business with to help me not only meet my goal, but to exceed my goal.
Right.
And whether do business with them to exceed my goal, what I'm saying is all the other things I do, there's no minorities doing it, but I won't choose the one area where I know there's some minorities doing it. So I submit a bid to the city, to the airport, and say, you know what, I'm going to come up short. That means I am purposefully. That means I am intentionally. That means it is my objective and my goal to come up short, because if I want to exceed my goal, I have the ability to do it. I know where to do it. I know where to find them, and I know how to do it.
I know there's a question.
Go ahead.
I know there's a question. I know there's a question in that statement. BJ, I know
The question is, do you think that's fair? I know the answer.
We already, I mean, listen, we talked about it as we even looked at the press release that was sent out. You've got the chairperson of the Greater St. Louis Board, who is talking about transforming our airport is a top priority for the St. Louis business community. And he says a new airport is critical to meeting the current and future needs of our metro, making us more competitive, increasing economic growth, and expanding our global connectivity. Okay, the thing that I'm looking at is increasing economic growth, because in that it implies workers. It implies that people are going to benefit. We understand that companies are going to benefit, but I always like to believe that companies are people. And but what we're seeing here is that to your point, there's not a willingness. There's not a deliberate, authentic, genuine willingness on behalf of those who have basically monopolized airport concessions, be it the car companies or the vendors, be it food and beverage or any other merchandising. That has become very evident. It's become very real. It is historical. It is. But my point too to that is that we read this, we hear this, we know that there are minority-owned companies that can perform any of these jobs, and so you can't say, well, we can't find any. They're there, but you to your point and to the senator's point, there has to be a willingness. There has to be a political willingness to hold people accountable. It goes back to your word, accountability. If the federal law says, if the federal program says, if you're going to get money, you have to do this, then at the end of the day, somebody has got to hold the commission and the businesses accountable, and we can't let them say, as you and I joked about last week, they've already told us
we're going to fail.
We're going to fail. And we have failed previously. So we're just going to continue we're going to maintain the status quo until you change it. We've got black business people that can do it all as far as I'm concerned. We looked at the different companies throughout the country who are doing businesses at airports throughout the country. And so there's no shortage of black businesses who can do just about any of this. There's not a willingness on behalf of white-owned companies who are doing business with the airport and airport authority who's supposed to oversee it. That's the problem.
Now, I'm dying to make this point again. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to bear with me because we're going to get redundant for a minute. Because I got two questions. One request and one question. Justin, I want you again, as a young black man, repeat what your credentials are. That's number one.
Right.
And then number two is, I want to know, was you asking him for any money in order to do this? Did you have the money to do what you said you was going to do?
No, right. Now, good question.
Credentials. So born in St. Louis, raised just across the river on the Illinois side.
Okay.
Graduated from Belleville West in 2010. Went on and graduated from Hampton University with a Bachelor's of Science.
Is that the real HU?
The real HU.
Okay, I'm just asking.
I'm
asking for a friend.
I don't know about
I'm asking
another
for a
one.
friend. I'm just asking for a friend. I'm asking for a friend.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, the HU people, that was Daryl Gray. Not proven, that was Daryl Gray. I want y'all to know who that was.
I'm asking for a friend.
Right. But no, so graduated from Hampton University in 2014, and I kicked off my career down in Atlanta with, at the time, was SunTrust Robinson Humphrey. Now they merged with BB&T to form Truist. But I was working in a group that we did all the debt financings on behalf of SunTrust's corporations and private equity shops. So if you think about a company who wanted to do a refinance of their debt, if they wanted to acquire a business and they needed debt to make that purchase, if it was a private equity company that wanted to do a leverage buyout, our group was tasked with doing the underwriting to confirm whether that business would generate sufficient cash to pay back that loan. So did that for several years, transitioned to New York, was working with JP Morgan, which at the time they were the number one bank in the investment banking league tables for technology. Within tech, I focused on IT services and fintech, and within fintech, the payment processors. So at the time, there was since it's been purchased, but there was a company, Vantiv, which was one of the largest payment processors. We did about a $3.7 billion refinance of Vantiv's current debt. And this was probably 2015, give or take. And so got the chance to truly understand the nuances, payment processing and that industry. And then transition today, I manage an investment fund that invests into minority-owned businesses. And
did you need in order to do what you was asking to do, the bid you was making, did you need financing to make that happen? Were you able to do it, period?
Was able to do it, period. Right. No money needed. Through all of the contracts and the partnerships and the opportunities that we have to date. Again, we're probably in 13 to 15 airports across the U.S. and growing. No financing needed. What we needed was a partner who understood the value of our service offering, understood how we could further support their business and winning new business, because now they had this ACDBE partner that they didn't have before. And so created a win-win partnership.
Hold on. So Daryl, I had him to say all of that. I knew it, but I want him to say, ladies and gentlemen, the point I'm trying to make is, based on the resume that you heard, and they wasn't begging for anybody money to do this, what does it take to do business with the airport? If his credentials and his pocketbook won't do it, what does it take to do business with our airport?
I think it's a legitimate question. I mean, you're looking at our best and our brightest, and if our best and our brightest can't succeed, and that becomes real. And as we said before, it's not like this is not being done around the country. You've said it yourself. I mean, and I'm sure that you have peers that you know other minority-owned companies who are also doing business at airports around the country. And so you're right, Pruitt. If our brightest and our best cannot succeed, particularly in a black city, I'm sorry, did I say that too loud? If our brightest and our best cannot succeed in a black city, then yeah, I mean, of course we're gonna have issues. And listen, we need the ABCDE program.
It cannot succeed in a city that's ran by progressives.
No.
Now, I'm just saying.
Oh,
now,
Lord.
Wait,
Really,
I'm
Pruitt?
just saying.
Really?
The leadership of the city at all levels.
Okay.
Mayor's office,
We do
President
this all
Board
the
of
time.
Alderman's
Yeah,
office,
we do this all the time.
Comptroller's office. They're the progressives.
You're showing out in front of companies.
Half of the Board of Aldermen, they're progressives. And what I'm saying is, what is more progressive than having a intellectually successful, with experience and a pocketbook to do business with a progressive city?
But I would submit to you that the commission, I mean, we've got to
They
look
progressives
at. No,
too.
we've got. In all fairness,
BJ's
out
progressive
of the
too.
17, we do it. In all fairness, what I didn't find out, what I'm going to find out is what is the length of time for their terms. With the commission. That's what I want to find out, because my thinking is, and I could be wrong, my thinking is that many on that commission have been on that commission. And so what I want to find out from some of our progressive friends, from the mayor's office and from the president of the board and the comptroller and others who put it, I want to know what recent appointees have gone on, because we need to look at this right now. And we still need to look at what leverage can we bring to bear, because when minority businesses succeed, minority communities succeed, minority work. And that's not to say that all minority businesses only hire minority people. That's not what we're saying. But what we are saying, if I can see it, I can be it. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, because, ladies and gentlemen, in airport and in-terminal concession at the airport, the largest contract by value are with Host International and the Hudson Group, representing 61% and 78% of the revenue.
And Hudson's all over. And Hudson's not just in St. Louis now. Hudson's in a lot of airports.
And are doing business,
Right.
and doing business in those other airports at extremely high levels with minorities. Now, just in St. Louis is where they do the plantation participation.
Plantation participation.
That's what we do, the plantation participation.
Adolphus, no, you didn't say that.
Yeah, overseer participation. Yes.
But you're the president of the NAACP. You're not going to talk like
That's
that.
why we're trying to bust this plantation up.
Oh, my Lord.
That is
Django.
plantation.
Django has busted loose.
Listen. When I can tell you, I have an obligation to meet minority participation, and I intend to fail, that is plantation participation. And I, ladies and gentlemen, and I tell you why. And here are the folks who should be upset the developers in the city,
Right.
the general contractors in the city, because the city has goals for them. And over the past 10 years, they have spent $700 million with minority and women over the past 10 years to meet the goals and objectives that SLDC set down that they have to meet through contracting, compliance, and monitoring. And so if one part of the city can get it right, well, damn it, the airport can too.
There you go.
Now, let's be real. It's plantation participation.
So as either to you or Jordan, I mean, you've talked about the process. From your standpoint, where do we go from here?
Again, I go back to accountability, but I want to raise a whole nother issue that we don't look at.
Please.
Right? So when you're raising your children, grandchildren, whoever it is, do you ask them to meet the minimum? Do you reward people for getting C's? Or do you tell them to strive for getting C's?
Right.
Or do you tell them to strive to be the best?
Right.
And what has happened here is what they've passed, they're not even getting C's.
Right. And telling us we're only going to get a C this time too.
If we get the C.
If we get the C.
You had one company with a 0 over 7 years.
Wow.
And they were rewarded with an extension of a contract. So we always, and this is the challenge that I dealt with in Illinois, we always look at the minimum. Mm-hmm. We never require that prime to get an A+. And until we focus not on the minimum, but on what is really expected, and that's growing that business so that they can participate in this process or level of playing field, because they pay tax dollars too.
And let's be clear. They can create the black business in order to meet the participation.
Right.
They don't see when they talk about we can't find them. Right. Oh, okay. But can you help create one?
Right.
Yes, of course I can. Well, why won't you? Well, I mean, if I don't, what's the hell gonna happen?
Right.
I just get the contract again. I just tell them I looked through a window that had shutters on it, and I couldn't see nothing on the other side. So therefore, that was a good faith effort. It was not my fault that the shutters were on the window, because that's not my job to close and open the shutters. Not my problem.
And we continue. We said it last week. When we look at minority unemployment in the region, we're talking about, in the teens, we're talking about 13, 14%. Minority unemployment. We're talking about white unemployment is around 2 point something, but ours is up 13, 14%. And so when there is an opportunity to grow black businesses, when there's an opportunity to grow black wealth, when there's an opportunity to grow black employment, then we should jump at that opportunity. But once again, there's got to be a willingness. And I think that we've got to talk about this. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to take a quick break. BJ's got to pay some credit card bills, but we'll be right back.
Did you see that transition Daryl did in the middle of his statement? He just, whoa, listen.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back with more of Point Black. Listen, remember, if you want to get in touch with us, you can go to any social media platform, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Point Black STL, at Point Black STL, or you can go to the iHeartRadio app. Go to the iHeartRadio app, type in Point Black. When it comes up, there's a little talk back mic on your upper right-hand side. Push that button and talk back to Adolphus, because you and I both know that most of the time he doesn't know what he's talking about. But go ahead and talk back. Pruitt, listen, we've had this has been a great discussion. I want some of them billions.
Oh,
I want some billions. And I agree. Going back to that C, no, I wouldn't reward my child for no C.
You wouldn't give them a reward for a C?
Oh, they'll get a reward, all right.
Whoa,
you call it what you want. You call it what you want. You call it what you want.
But ladies and gentlemen, in all seriousness, because we like to have fun on the show. This is a very serious discussion for us, and the reason why is is because we've been fighting since post-Reconstruction, even pre-Reconstruction, but definitely since post-Reconstruction. All of the fights during the 60s, all of the legislative activities and efforts during the 60s, and some in the 70s, and in the 80s, and the 90s, all of this has always been about to ensure that people that look like me and Daryl, that African Americans, have an opportunity and have a level playing field to participate in the economic stronghold that these folks have on this country and in certain industries. That's what this thing has always been about. And folks, it's important, more important now than ever before, because just like they turned around the admissions processes and went to the Supreme Court and took that out. And now, and believe it or not, and now there's a case before the Supreme Court that's going to deal with a company that set up money to put venture capital, put specifically to help black women businesses thrive. And they're trying to take it out and say that that company can't do it. What I'm saying to you is that there is a window that's been open. And every day there are some folks trying to close it. Yep. And they move it and inch it down a little more each and every time. So it is extremely important that we get as many African-American businesses through that window and get them in a position to grow, because they're going to close that window and we're going to be locked out.
They're attacking that. I mean, I think that there is a movement to attack everything that deals with equity, diversity, and inclusion, from businesses to education. I mean, we're seeing it all over. But I agree with you, Pruitt, and we do want the panelists to have the last word, but I agree with you. The fight is on a lot of different fronts, and I think that that's the issue, Senators, that we've got to fight. We got to fight to make sure that we hold on to the little gains that we've made as it relates to diversity and equity and inclusion. We've got, you stayed in the Senate as long as you did, but I mean, and Illinois, I think, is doing great when you look at Midwest states. But you realize is that they are chipping away, and it reminds you the old song. If I can, your son, he probably don't. If I can turn back the hands of time. Now you and I, we probably know that. And
That's
through
right.
it.
That's right.
But
you're making him younger than he is.
But he's young. But that is
this
it.
This Negro's old.
If you're right, is that the gains and they're turning it back. Windows are closing, doors are closing, opportunities are becoming less and less, and we've got to deal with this, right now.
And when we get the progressive in control, that's when we really should be doing it and making strides.
You mean black progressives, because there's a difference between progressives and black progressives. So
there is.
Yeah. But anyway, let's talk to our panelists some more.
I got you.
I know.
So, Justin, Senator Clayborne, here, let's do this. Talk about why it is important that you all really have this opportunity.
Why is it important that you succeed? Why is it important that you succeed? And we're not talking about you personally, because I know you've done the work, Senator, and I know your son, chip off the old block, except for that one mistake he made.
Hey, don't talk about Kappa Alpha Psi up in here, boy.
Pruitt knew I was going to do that before. Go ahead, Senator. Go ahead. I'm just messing.
And this is Justin speaking, and you all touched upon earlier. It's exposure.
Yes.
This opportunity is bigger than the Clayborne family.
There you go.
This opportunity is bigger than International Card Solutions or any people that are around this table today. Right. I think this shows that next young black boy, young black girl, that there are opportunities in fintech when you can look up and see a black CEO who, again, born in St. Louis, right? Played basketball all throughout St. Louis, raised on the Illinois side, to say that this is possible. I'm a strong believer in that exposure. It's one hell of a drug, and that once you see it, you cannot unsee it.
That's a great quote.
If I can see it, I can be it. I love it.
Exposure is a hell of a drug.
That came from the sun, y'all. That didn't come from. Well, obviously, That came from the son by way of Pop. Don't get it twisted now.
Senator, can you top that?
I don't know if I can top that, but I'll say this. During my tenure in the Senate, I raised right around $65,000 a year. And I had a mentoring program at 3 high schools, and I can tell you that taking these young men all over the country, flying places. We flew to D.C. the first time, and I remember staying at the embassy suites. And I go out in the hall, and these young men are in the hall screaming and yelling. They were excited about the fact that there was a flat screen television in the room, right? They had never flown before. I did it for 17 years. I did a historically black college tour. I have students. Obviously, my son's on Wall Street. There's a young man that's a physician at Johns Hopkins Hospital. There's a young man who didn't realize that college was in his future. And now at Belleville West, he's one of the first African Americans hired in an instructor as a major position as a teacher at the high school. And I have CPAs, I have people young men and women now that are adults, that said by being exposed to historically black colleges, it changed their life. So if I'm not in those positions to be able to raise money and support things like that, I'm not saying those kids wouldn't have been, those young adults wouldn't have been successful, but the fact that they were exposed to something differently changed their life and will affect their children's and their grandchildren's lives. So it's very important, because the other issue, and I own a business, my law firm, you're constantly making sure that you're investing in certain organizations that are meaningful to your community.
Right.
And being able to be in positions as well, like I sit on St. Louis Children's Hospital Board, to talk about policy, to share my influence and my experiences in their decision making as well.
When I'm looking at just the airport situation by itself. I mean, the expansion of the airport, Pruitt, they're talking about hundreds of jobs from the construction part. Boeing's going to make their money. The airports that are coming in, they're going to make their money. And as I said, from the construction piece. But when the construction part is over, people still need to be employed. And so I'm still saying that every opportunity that we get as progressives and elected progressive officials, we need to start governing the way we campaign. And that's my challenge. That's my challenge to progressive officials. Govern the way you campaign. If we, and one of the things is we talk about economic development, we talk about economic justice, economic injustice, and we cry out. But we've got to start dealing with, generational wealth. When we talk about, we can talk about employment, we can talk about get somebody hired, we can talk about, increasing the minimum wage, but let's also talk about black businesses.
And as a matter of fact, I was looking at, I can remember one of the shows this morning, they had Justin on there. Okay. From the St. Louis, that plays for the Boston Celtics. And he was announcing, Tatum. He was announcing a program that he, and I forgot what the bank it was, but they putting together $1 million to provide for down payments for specifically for single mothers, I thought, here in the St. Louis area. And so he's taking the task of trying to ensure that single parents, like he was raised in a single parent household, have opportunity to do some of the things that he said that his mother couldn't do when he was younger. And so those are good things. So Justin, here's what I want to ask you. You have to have formulated an opinion about this whole process and how you feel it is impacting young people like you who have the education, have the experience, and have the money to move forward and grow a business, you have to have had, I want to hear personally, how does that make you feel when you run into these sort of situations? Because I think it's important for people to understand, not only when you run in these situations and you hear this no, undeserving no, what's the personal impact it has on you as a young black person trying to do what white folks say you shouldn't be able to do in the first place?
It's difficult. I don't want to lie and say it's easy. I don't want to lie and say, at times you get very frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
We've had conversations with other ACDBEs who face these similar issues, and they decide to walk away.
Mm.
That's the path that we sometimes take in trying to, target, penetrate these big companies who have closed the doors in our face. I think for me, though, and we talk about, you mentioned getting the billions, this opportunity is too large to walk away.
Right.
Back of the envelope math, I believe genuinely there's $500 million with a B annually across the U.S. that is earmarked for these ACDBE companies that goes unspent with them. But every year, these car rental companies request these ACDBE participation waivers. And so when you ask the question, my father always says, who paved the way for us?
I heard that you just took us out, believe it or not.
Yes, you did.
He just took us out. Couldn't do
was
it.
good.
Matter of fact, folks, and we didn't pay for that. That commercial we didn't pay for. Listen, it's been a great show. We appreciate you listening in. We'll see you next time on Point Black.